scary.
Alex versus Delsin. I wanted to do this fight in particular because I really like the Prototype versus Infamous matchups, and I wanted to do this fight for a while. So today we're doing Alex versus Delsin, and they each have a unique set of abilities and how each of their abilities interact with each other. And I wanted to make sure I'm extra thorough this time around, so the rules for this fight are going to be as follows. It's going to take place on neutral ground, so think a combination of New York and Seattle. There are no infected or DUP, but there are a lot of civilians. That way, Alex and Delsin can both recharge, all while having a little to no interference from outside sources. That being said, I may do a bonus round where I have them fight in Alex's universe where a full-scale infection is taking place, but you'll have to wait till the end of the video to see. Now, since I've done Alex a few times, I'm going to be talking about Delsin and how Alex can interact with those said abilities. Now, Delsin is a very powerful conduit, with the ability to absorb and copy the power of other conduits he comes into contact with. Now, there's no confirmed limit on how many he can copy and store, but canonically so far he has smoke, neon, video, and concrete, and depending on which ending you picked, he has the power of all the conduits locked in Curtain K, which is a super prison facility the DUP locks conduits up in. But for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to be saying that he has the main four you get throughout the game. Mostly just because we have no idea what powers he has, so it's all speculation at that point. But with that being said, we're going to be using the version of Alex right before he fights James Heller and absorbs all of those evolved. Now, let's start with speed, because that's the most controversial thing I've seen when researching this. There seems to be a weird headcanon that Delsin and Fetch are both light speed, which is insane to me. Delsin is not light speed, and I'm going to be honest, that is completely ridiculous for that. If that was the case, it just doesn't work. And I think there's a lot of assumption happening because of what the move is named in the game, but the power isn't light, because the name in the game is called light speed, but it's neon, which neon is a gas which illuminates when hit with a specific current. Now, if his power was actual light, then maybe, but he's not light speed. If he is, literally he would break the Infamous universe. And he scales to light speed from Fetch, but he wouldn't be able to ever hit her if that was the case, and she wouldn't be able to get caught ever. But Delsin gets the drop on her more than a few times, and that being said, Delsin is stated to be twice as fast as Cole McGrath, but I will say that Delsin has a slight edge in speed, at least when using Neon over Alex, because of his increased focus, which is a really heightened reaction time. But Alex is really fast when using his short dashes, and his movement speed isn't anything to scoff at either, being able to scale up a building a lot similar, if not the same speed, than Delsin can in Neon. Alex is able to outrun Apache helicopters and has a subsonic speed feat where he moved from the top floor of an apartment to the ground before Dana could react, and he blitzed an entire team of security guards. He also has supersonic reaction feats such as reacting to and dodging to an M1 Abrams tank shell, which fire at Mach 4.6. Outside of Neon, Alex has the edge in speed and mobility, just being overall very fast and nimble and very coordinated. This speed difference is going to have Delsin on the back foot if he's using something besides Neon. His smoke powers are good for evasion and fleeing if he wants to fly a vent to the top of a building, for example, or temporarily turn to smoke when dodging. Video is a little faster, but not as fast as Alex, and for concrete, he's just asking for it at that point. So, in terms of strength, I'm going to go over some feats. The big thing is Delsin fighting Augustine. In terms of feats, I'm going to have to give Alex the edge because of the tendril feat being more impressive. While Delsin destroying the island where he fought Augustine is impressive, I don't think it's as amazing as everyone seems to think it is, as the building was an unstable structure, and it wasn't one move that destroyed it, but multiple explosions and super ultra moves done by Delsin. So think of it as pushing a rock over the side of a cliff that's poised to fall, or hitting a support pillar just right and making the building fall. And not only that, Augustine and Delsin were fighting each other at full strength. The same Augustine who can manipulate concrete. So even if that building was just a little unstable, hitting it just right is going to make it fall. And to quiet everyone who's yelling about Augustine, I'm going to go over that right now. So Delsin is able to fight her while he's figuring out his new powers. He literally just got concrete and was barely able to do anything with it. And this guy still destroys Augustine basically with like no moves or practice with the power. And he defeats Augustine, who's stated to be the most powerful conduit, which honestly I think is a little sus since Cole and the Beast both exist. So I'm literally going to throw out that statement to DUP propaganda. and just say that that's their in-world headcanon. But now that that's out of the way, how would a fight between them go? Well, in terms of versatility, I'm going to give Alex the edge here because he has a ton of adaptability and he doesn't have to run and find a new source of energy every time he wants to switch. But that being said, almost all of Delsin's power would put him at a disadvantage except for Neon, because Alex has a way to counter it. For concrete, Alex can use his pure speed and shield to block and dodge projectiles, and it's Delsin's slowest form. Alex would close the distance in one shot. If Delsin starts off with smoke, he's not strong enough to put Alex down, and the best he can do is flap a building using a vent until he switches to Neon. For video, he has a better chance, and honestly, he can even match Alex in terms of moves. He's got that big sword, and he honestly would probably match everything Alex would do with Alex's shield and Alex's like hammer fist. I think that would be honestly the closest fight in terms of like AP and like fighting. Alex could block and match everything that Delsin could, but Delsin would run out of energy before he could put him down because video just doesn't have enough stopping power to put Alex down, if I'm gonna be completely honest. And that's mostly because Alex can match and counter all of his moves. An explosive equals a shield. Explosive for Delsin equals a shield for Alex. Invisibility for Delsin equals infrared for Alex. He has a sword. Alex has a sword too. And it just keeps going. The only way Delsin even stands a chance is with Neon, because if he shoots him with a strong enough blast, he could maybe win with this disintegration, but that's a solid maybe. Now, let's say Alex can do enough damage, or let's say Alex can't do enough damage, or Delsin won't let Alex get close. What would happen? Well, Alex could run and get a disguise and attack from above, or he could hit Delsin with his whip fist, or he could even throw cars at him. But honestly, you could throw it down to a battle of stamina. In a battle of attrition, who would win? Well, most likely Alex, because he literally can't run out of stamina and he could just keep fighting indefinitely. But if that was the case, they'd probably be fighting for literally days. And so I'm going to say this is firmly Alex's win with a 7 out of 10 difficulty. But this is very different if it's Alex versus bad ending Delsin, because that version of Delsin has a completely unknown number of new powers, which would just make him ridiculous in terms of the number of hacks that he has. And I would say, yeah, I could probably take Alex down. Now, I said there would be a bonus round, which would be a fight in the infected city, which I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna throw Delsin a bone here, and I'm gonna say Delsin with all of the powers of all of the conduits versus a full-scale city infected but is under Alex's control. And how would that go? Evil ending Delsin, who's completely brutal and evil, and how would that go? Well, I'm gonna be honest, he has a way better chance of killing Alex just immediately because of how brutal he is. But I will say, Alex can probably find an opening just based on the pure amount of people he'd be throwing at Delsin. And at that point, it just becomes how long can Delsin last until Alex comes in with the killing blow. Because I could honestly see Alex just like waiting on top of buildings, waiting for the right moment just to hit him with his overhead sword swipe and just cut him in half and just wait for that right moment. Because honestly, Delsin is still one person and he's just not strong enough to like just wipe an entire city, unless of course like he turns into the beast somehow. But like canonically, there's nothing to indicate that there was a super ultra strong conduit in Kurgan K, because Augustine is supposedly the strongest living conduit, and or even like the strongest conduit to ever exist. And it's just, so there's no in-universe explanation for him being that strong. So full-scale invasion versus bad ending Delsin, I'm gonna give it to Alex just because of the stupidity of how many infected would be under his control and that he could throw at Delsin just to like drain him of energy. And even if like Delsin was going to recharge, like Alex isn't gonna stop throwing infected at him, so he's screwed. And in their normal fight, when they're fighting, each are going to be running to go get more energy and consuming, and Alex can just keep doing it. But I don't know how much power sources are going to keep replenishing, at least in terms of like before Alex can close the distance, because Alex can get close a lot easier than Delsin can, because Delsin's ranged attacks, while they're strong, they're just not enough to take Alex down. So that being said, that's the end of the video. Sorry it's been so long since my last upload, and I know I say this every time, but I'm really going to try to upload more, and thank you guys for supporting me out throughout this whole thing, and look forward to more videos because I am going to be making more soon.